What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Okay, so we're going to do a discussion on Jack Bruun's Macro Rabbit that he just won YCS Barcelona, Spain with. Now, full disclosure at the beginning of this video, Macro Rabbit is the deck that I have been running for the last month or so. In fact, Gerlando's deck, contrary to popular belief, was widely available it was about 3 weeks before YCS Seattle Tacoma. And I mean, I took Gerlando's deck, changed 2 cards, and that's what I've been running. In fact, this deck that you're looking at right now, there's only a one card difference between this deck and the deck that I've been running for the last month, and that's, you know, he runs Grandmo and I run Evac Device, which kind of do the same thing. So, you know, but I'm gonna go over the deck list quickly because Gerlando's deck basically is the blueprint to how you're going to get the most success out of this format. And Dino Rabbit is a deck where you only have about 3 or 4 tech spots in this deck. I would say about 3 tops before you start editing things and messing with the consistency of the deck. So, 2 Rabbit, the 6 normals, which is 3 Sabersaurus and 3 Kabazaz, 3 Dp-Ygo, the Tour Guide Engine, Night Assailant, Sangan, 2 Tour Guides, 2 Spirit Reapers, Neospatian Grandmole, 3 Forbidden Lance, 2 MSTs, Monster Born, Book of Moon, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm. And then we have the trap lineup starting with 2 Macro, 2 Dimensional Prison, the Solemn Brigade, which is 2 Warnings and 1 Solemn Judgment, 2 Bottomless, 2 Torrential Tribute, 2 Fiendish Chains, and a Starlight Road to end things off. Why is Macro Rabbit such a good deck? And I've been talking about this since basically like over a month ago. It's because of this card right here, Macro Cosmos. People don't understand the fact that this deck is not the same as it was last format. This is not the same. You either have Logia or you just lose. If you don't open with Logia, chances are you're going to lose the game. Macro is such a powerful card. Like, the reason that Dino Rabbit is so good right now is because it can simply activate this card, and then this card basically reads, while this card is on the field, your opponent can't win. You do that to Mermaid Atlantean, you do that to Insector, you do that to Dark World, and the decks just completely fall apart. You just win off 1 card. It's like you never even need Logia. Logia will help, obviously, but if you don't even hit the card, it just, I mean, it doesn't matter. This 1 macro just basically stops them. Dp-Ygo is nuts. I gave up on Thunder King a while ago when I realized how retarded Dp-Ygo is against Mermills. It becomes a 1-card Doka because they can't leave any monsters on the board because Dp-Ygo runs all of them over, and you make Doka, and that deck just fucking loses the Doka. Speaking of Doka, Doka is emphatically better than Logia right now. Yes, it's harder to protect. That's the whole reason that the deck currently runs 3 Lances and 2 MSTs versus the latter of last format. But Doka is one of those cards where, again, it's like Macro. If Doka's face up on the field, Insectors can't beat you. Windups can't beat you. Atlanteans can't beat you. I mean, Agents have Hyperion, so they have outs to it. But most of the decks in the format just flat out lose. And that's the difference between this stun deck and some of the other stun decks. Like a deck like Heroes. Heroes don't have any 1 card outside of something like Skill Drain, which is not the card that it used to be, where it just says your opponent can't win if this card's on the field. Spirit Reaper was a card that I was hesitant to run, but when I started testing it, I realized how ridiculous it was, and that's the reason why all Dino Rabbit players are pretty much main decking 2 of this. It's because it allows you to play defensive turn 1. If your opponent, you know, puts something big on the field, like a Leviathan Dragon, or, you know, maybe a big beater like a Graph or something, it allows you to simply set this card, sit on it, and stall. Your opponent has Fortress on the field and you don't have any back row, just sit on this. I mean, there's only about 2 outs to this as far as Exceed Synchroing goes. That's, I mean, commonly made ones. That's, you know, Photon Butterfly and Big Eye, but Big Eye's, you know, kind of difficult to make. Everything else in this deck is fairly standard. But let's talk about Dino Rabbit more. And, you know, people were really hesitant when I made that top 8 list. People were kind of hesitant to, you know, acknowledge Macro Rabbit. And I tried explaining it. It's like, you have to understand, with 1 card, the Macro, there are like 3 really good decks in the format that you just auto-win. And the thing about this is, these decks don't play exceptionally well defense, which means you can slow roll into a Logia. Once you have Logia Macro, you basically just win. Doka's another card where if you have something like Lance, I mean, it's really, really difficult to get around. Dino Rabbit is also a deck where it doesn't have to get to Lagia and Doka to win, because you can play against a deck like Heroes, and you see, even without the 2 macros, you're running 12 traps, you're running Book of Moon, and you're running 3 lances. I mean, you have removal for days. It's very conceivable to win a game simply off of Sabersaurus being able to beat over things. You know, your opponent summons that Stratos, you attack over it. Your opponent summons Neos, it's like, okay, you know, Solemn Warning or Bottomless it, or you go to attack, you know, I know you have the Spark, it's like lance your monster and it dies, and I'm just going to win off beating you down with dinosaurs. So it's like Dino Rabbit can play the 1-for-1 game and beat decks like Geargias and Heroes, or it can just play the I have this card on the field, which is, you know, it's Lagia, Doka, or Macro, and you can't win. I can just play the control game, you know what I mean? So I look at Macro Rabbit and I'm like, you guys, if you're not going to acknowledge this deck, then there's something fucking wrong with you, because you look at the Insector matchup, it's like fucking auto win. You look at the Mermail matchup, it's fantastic. You look at the Agent matchup, it's pretty good. Like, the only matchup that Dino Rabbit really struggles with right now is windups, and I mean, it's kind of just a, you kind of, if they explode on you, obviously, you know, they'll win, but it's a manageable matchup mainly because of Doka. So tell me what you guys